It's an exciting time to be a Dragon Ball Super fan at the moment, given the new arc has started, as well as the fact that in 2024 we're getting Dragon Ball Daima at the end of the year, a new Dragon Ball anime, as well as Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It's shaping up nicely, Dragon Ball fans are eating well, and I think 2025 might even be an even better year. However, in the Dragon Ball Super Manga, we're all anticipating the return of Frieza after nearly 2 years of waiting since Frieza arrived on planet Cereal, unveiled that he had trained for 10 years in a room of spirits and time just to defeat Ultra Goku and Ultra Vegeta in one punch. This was after he'd already just defeated the strongest in the universe, Gas, as well. I think Frieza spent 10 years watching Saitama in the room of spirits and time. Just kidding, guys, just kidding. Obviously, we got an entire year of the superhero movie retelling in the manga, and it finally started off with the new arc in chapter 101, but we didn't get to see anything about Black Frieza. He was only referred to. We know that Goku and Vegeta still haven't surpassed Black Frieza, potentially Gohan beast as. We now have Orange Piccolo. Broly doesn't seem to be able to turn Super Saiyan. Beerus is still as strong as ever, of course, but ultimately Black Frieza's out there. He might even be stronger. Obviously, I often refer to the Jump magazine where it states that Black Frieza is close to a God of Destruction. That God of Destruction would be Beerus of Universe 7, so he is close to even Beerus, of course. Beerus likely has other techniques as well, but that's a different story for a different day. Frieza's close, but I think a lot of people still suspect that Frieza will not be the main antagonist for the new arc. Obviously, Frieza's kind of had his time as a main antagonist. On Namek in Dragon Ball Z, he was the main antagonist, and obviously he's one of the most iconic villains, not just in Dragon Ball history, but in anime history. Of course, he returned in Resurrection of F, and whilst the movie wasn't that great, it was still cool to see Frieza again, and I think through retroactive provisions and additions given Frieza's character narrative throughout the rest of Super, for example, returning for the Tournament of Power, helping Goku defeat Jiren for the Tournament of Power, then obviously arriving in the Broly movie, bringing Broly to planet Earth, and of course defeating Gas. I think even ROF has been enriched somewhat to some degree. However, people still really don't believe that he is going to be the ultimate antagonist of the new arc. Now, we know Frieza has plans to eventually defeat Beerus, supplant the Omni Kings, which is a tall order even with his black form, so he's likely going to have to look for allies, and I've theorized that he might look to acquire Broly and enslave Broly, as well as maybe look to find a way to complete Cell Max and be in control of that, and maybe make allies across the multiverse. I think that would be a really cool story. But what if he already has a potential ally in what was his brother Cooler in the Dragon Ball Z movie canonicities? Now, of course, Cooler's not canon to the Toriyama initial story, but Toriyama is even credited in the Daizenshu 6 as the one who drew the initial concepts of Cooler. Now, of course, I own the Daizenshu, and I do own the Daizenshu 6, and I have a lot of cool images from the Daizenshu concerning the movies Revenge of Cooler, movie number 5, and movie number 6, The Return of Cooler, where we eventually got Meta Cooler, which I thought was a really interesting, cool concept. Now, we really do not know a lot about Frieza's race. Of course, we know Frieza's out there building his Frieza Empire, like I said, likely building it towards his goals to help him achieve those goals. We know there's Frost in Universe 6 who's of a similar race, but nowhere near as powerful as Frieza as we saw in the Tournament of Power, and he is in Universe 6 and they are likely enemies now anyway. Is it possible they could make an alliance? I guess so, but ultimately in Universe 7, we know that Frieza had a father, King Cold, but he was defeated by Future Trunks way back in the Android Saga. And one thing I want you to know from you guys is, do you think Frieza still remembers the fact that Future Trunks, with his Super Saiyan form, actually chopped him to pieces in the first place? Do you think he still has that revenge plan? We know he's not as impulsive to try and go and get that revenge anymore, but you think he still has Future Trunks in mind to destroy? Obviously, he's going to have a hard time finding him. In fact, I'm making this up on the spot, Frieza traveling timelines is actually quite an interesting idea. Imagine if they had to chase Frieza through the timelines. Imagine if you met another version of Zamasu. That would be a terrifying, evil alliance. Anyway, I need to calm down. I'm getting a bit wild now. Now, Cooler, obviously, like I said, is not canon to the Dragon Ball's original manga, and obviously not Dragon Ball Super. However, I think it's not wild to say that there's a chance that Cooler could be made canon to this canonicity and this storyline. After all, Broly's been made canon to the Dragon Ball Super storyline. Obviously, it's a completely new version of Broly, where there's even been changes made to make it more palatable that he would be in this timeline itself. Bardock's been made canon as well, and basically with Broly they sent him to planet Vampa to give a reason as to why he's been so absent from the storyline, rather than in the original Dragon Ball Z Broly movie where he was rampaging around the universe and he just wasn't noticed. Of course Super's a bit further along the timeline, and obviously with the introductions of the Supreme Kais, then surely they would have known about a Z Broly had he been in the universe wrecking things. Obviously they changed that to make it so it worked, and obviously Broly, when he goes into Legendary Super Saiyan and Super, he can even match the God forms and go beyond that. With Cooler, now obviously you would argue, where has Cooler been this whole time if he's just been Frieza's brother and he's just been wandering the universe? Well, I don't think they necessarily have to go in that direction. As we know, without Frieza, the Frieza Force was falling apart. In the original movies, Cooler is part of a squadron that basically subjugates planets for the Frieza Force. And obviously he is King Cold's son as well, so he has a lot to do with that particular organization, even though he's a bit more of a maverick and does things on his own. However, what if they actually went in the direction of he's an ancestor of Frieza rather than a direct brother? After all, we don't know a lot about the Frieza race. They could really manipulate that storyline however they wanted to in terms of the lore. As I mentioned earlier, Frieza's looking for allies. What if he decides to wish back the most powerful ancestor of his race in order to find allies to fight against the Z Warriors, as well as Beerus and potentially the Omni King? Could be possible to go down that route. And obviously, as we know with Cooler, he has a fifth form, a form that goes beyond even Frieza's final form, which even if you look at Frieza's further transformations, his golden form and his black form, they do just seem to be colour changes or palette changes to that original final form. We know from the original Dragon Ball Z movies, for Cooler, he has a form beyond that, the fifth form, which looks kind of cool to be honest. But what if he can also maybe use a fifth black form? Obviously we saw the fifth golden form in Super Dragon Ball Heroes, but given Frieza's got a black form, and obviously he would have got maybe some inspiration from somewhere, and maybe he trained in the Room of Spirit and Time with someone, maybe it could have been Cooler. Maybe he had a brother the entire time, but he just wasn't particularly strong. It is alluded to in Xenoverse 2 that Cooler has to train all the time, unlike Frieza. He's not naturally as powerful as Frieza, he just trains a lot, so he's more akin to the likes of Goku and Vegeta in terms of how much he trains. Obviously Frieza's probably taken that route now. Now in terms of their portrayal, Cooler's really portrayed as quite intelligent and a lot less egotistical than Frieza. He's a lot more analytical than what Frieza is and weighs things up. Now Frieza is starting to get portrayed as quite intelligent and quite strategic. As we saw, he was able to outmaneuver the Heaters in the Granola arc, and they, in particular Elec, was portrayed to be a character that was intelligent and a strategic mind, kind of like a chess player I guess you could say. But Frieza seems to be portrayed on that playing field, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's the most intelligent. After all, it was Android 17's strategy that won them the Tournament of Power. Still, he could have an even smarter brother that's even better at playing these chess moves, and they could go down the Return of Cooler route where, maybe he's a scientist and he creates the new meta Cooler idea that allows him to surpass Black Frieza. Of course, it would be Goku and Vegeta and the gang likely squaring up to him, and obviously with all these new characters that are incredibly powerful getting on a similar playing field in terms of their battle power, i.e. Goku with his Ultra Instinct, Vegeta with Ultra Ego, Gohan Beast, Orange Piccolo, Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, there's even Granola, Beerus, obviously Beerus. If a character that's even stronger than Black Frieza is able to create an army of hundreds like Meta Cooler was in movie 6, but at the level of power that the guys are at now, then the response wouldn't need to be that there's a number of characters able to fight against them. Maybe he's found the big Gete star in Universe 7, or maybe if they can traverse the universes in the 12 universes, maybe they've found something akin to that around the multiverse, and it's Frieza's brother or clansman that actually gets that power and not Frieza himself and gets the metal power. I think that would be a really cool concept. Now I know lots of people are going to say, well, it's just a rehash, we've seen it before, we don't need to see it again, but I do think we've had quite a few original concepts lately in terms of Jiren, Moro, Granola, Gas, and of course Cell Max was a bit of a rehash of the original Cell, just a much worse version. And then Broly is kind of just Z Broly repackaged, but there's plenty of new characters that have been brought into the series itself, and of course, if they are going to traverse the universe and multiverse, then we're going to meet a lot of different new characters along the way as well. Of course, given that Goku's new struggles seem to be transforming into Silverhead Ultra Instinct and going deeper into the state and ultimately getting stronger in that state. If you look back at the original movie 5, Goku couldn't transform into Super Saiyan after even attaining it on Namek against Frieza, because the Cooler Revenge movie takes place in between Namek and the Android Saga, obviously in an alternate universe, and then obviously Cooler pisses him off, so he turns Super Saiyan, which is stated in the Daizenshu 6, and Daizenshu 6 also states that the return of Cooler happens between the declaration of the Cell Games to the Cell Games itself. And ultimately, I think that this will be a very interesting dynamic to have in the Superverse itself. I don't particularly want another movie that tells a story. I wouldn't mind it as an arc. I think Frieza not being the main villain but a threat, and then having a brother that he could work with that's just as evil as him but more conniving, a little less egotistical and less likely to make the same mistakes as Frieza does. Obviously, both of them could turn on each other at either moment. Cooler did state that he wanted to kill Frieza in the initial movies. They could continue that type of narrative, but it will be interesting to witness the dynamic of power between the two as they fight against Goku and the gang. Obviously, my ancestor theory, people are going to point to Chilled from episode of Bardock, and of course maybe they could make him canon as well, as alongside some of Cooler's henchmen that he has, that like Salzar. It's just an interesting way to get some of these characters into the mainstream continuity. Not everyone likes it, some people do like it. I don't mind it as long as it's in a mix with some new original characters as well, and I think Super has actually given us quite a few new original characters, so I don't mind the occasional reboot of a character, and Cooler's definitely one of the most popular ones, and I do think he could provide an interesting story for us as well. So I'm not particularly against it, and I think it would be a good gateway into getting us to see some more information and lore about Frieza's race. But everyone seems to have a Cooler theory, and that's mine, so let me know yours down in the comment section, how you think they could make Cooler canon if they did. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Would you like to see Cooler return and get his vengeance in the new arc of Dragon Ball Super? And of course, if he's going to be the main antagonist, he would be stronger than Black Frieza, of course, and therefore he would be pretty damn close to the God of Destruction Beerus in terms of power. Maybe we'll get to see Beerus get serious, or maybe even he won't fight this level of power. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I look forward to reading them. Especially get your Cooler jokes in. There's plenty to be made. Smash a like on the video if you enjoy Dragon Ball content. Until next time, Ad Astra.